stars have packed you a lunch and left you a little cosmic love note for you to read when you open your lunch. One of those notes that you used to get from your parents that not only wished you a good day, but reminded you that they love you and they care about you. That's what's happening today with the moon sextiling Venus. Now, before we get into it, I'm Michael the Hierophant. I'm a practicing mystic and magi, and I invite you to join me every single Wednesday at 6:30 Pacific for my spiritual, astrological, divination-based workshop, Consciousness, Conjunctions, and Conversations. We get together on Zoom. It's completely free. We go over last week's transits, how those energies manifested in our lives. We tell community and anecdotal stories to help us understand and delineate the meaning of the celestial bodies and how they show up as energies in our lives, whether it be motivations, stories, or feelings. And we go over the next week's transits as well, where I teach you where to place these aspects in the greater spiritual story, because that is what we were all living. That is what astrology shows us, is our place in the cosmic narrative. And as we venture through this dark forest that we call life, there is no better compass than the stars above to help us get through and make the decisions when we're overwhelmed, when we're debilitated, and when it feels like there's just no way out of our current situation. So please join me every Wednesday at 6:30 for my free astrological divination-based workshop. You can sign up at the link in my bio. So let's dive into today's astrology. We don't have a whole lot of substantial transits that are in culmination. We have some transits that are still slipping out and are still on the way out, like from that kite that we had last week. So we still have aspects with Pluto, Uranus, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and retrograde that are still motioning. But today we're going to focus on some culminating aspects, such as the moon in Taurus, which is sextiling Venus in Cancer. So elementally, Venus is our desire body, and when Venus is in Cancer, all of our themes of love and desire and pleasure all become very focused on Cancerian themes. Not a big surprise because it's in the sign of Cancer. And so Cancerian themes are themes of the home, of relationships with mothers and sisters, as well as our ability or our need to provide a sense of nurturing. And this is all going to depend on where Cancer is in your chart, because wherever Cancer is in your chart is where your soul needs the most mothering, it needs the most nurturing. So the moon is our emotional body, and the moon is in Taurus right now, which means it is in an exalted position. We have some very fascinating interaction between the moon and Venus, because the Venus is in the moon sign and the moon is exalted in Venus's sign of Taurus, which actually gives us a sense of mutual reception. Mutual reception is when planets share each other's thrones. So it's not when a planet sits in its own throne, it's when the planet sits in the other planet it's aspecting's throne. So in this position, Venus is the ruler of Taurus, Moon is ruler of Cancer, but Moon is in Taurus, Venus is in Cancer. Does that make sense? So we also have the interesting situation that the moon is in the superior position in the sextile. The superior position is calculated by whichever celestial body is further up in the zodiacal timeline. So essentially, the closer it is to Aries, that planet will be in the superior position. The further away it is from Aries and the closer it is to Pisces, that planet will be in the inferior position. And in this case, even though there's mutual reception taking place, we can kind of remove the negative qualities of both Venus and the moon. We're getting basically rid of those shadow aspects because those are being exchanged in that mutual reception. However, the superior position of the moon suggests that this is a moon-based story. Whatever is happening under this transit is in support of the moon's story. But with Venus going through the sign of Cancer, we would be hard-pressed to find that this is truly a Venetian story at its core. Whatever Venus is showing us as she moves through the sign of Cancer, even though it might be in the energy of receiving and reception, which is Venetian, and it might have to do with pleasure, harmony, and love, Venetian qualities, it is furthering the moon's agenda in our life. And what does the moon want? Well, when the moon is in Taurus, it tells us exactly what she wants. The moon wants to feel stable, secure, safe, and because the moon is our emotional body, it's exalted in the sign of Taurus, because Taurus is all about physical pleasures. And what do physical pleasures do? If something feels good on your skin, if you eat something good, if you smoke something good. You know, like all of these things, they bring you a sense of pleasure. And when you have that physical pleasure, it seeps into your emotional body. So this is where the moon comes in. The moon likes to feel good. I mean, kind of no duh. When your emotions are like on a spectrum of here to here, and this is feels good and this is feels bad, where do you want to be? You want to be in the feeling good department. And so does the moon, because the moon is your emotional body. So with the moon being in the superior position to Venus, we likely have some very Venetian desires to nurture or be nurtured. So like if you're a man and Venus is moving through Cancer, this might manifest more in accordance with your need to be a provider, to nurture something else, because there is a general sense of satisfaction in the masculine to be able to provide for the feminine. Now, if you're a feminine with the Venus moving through Cancer, this is going to be probably a lot more about receiving wherever it is in your chart. You might be needing to receive the nurturing versus providing it. However, this is not a hard and fast rule by any means. I just think that there's a lot of masculines and men, for example, who have a hard time understanding how Venus is actually affecting their lives. Now, to further this story more, and we are coming off of the Venus-Jupiter conjunction earlier this week, which happened August 11th and August 12th. And basically, since Jupiter and Venus are still they're still cohabitating the same sign of Cancer, we're still going to continue to see a play out of these timelines. Now, if you haven't, you should go back and watch my other videos so you can kind of catch up on the spiritual narrative that's being unfolded here. But Jupiter and Venus in the sign of Cancer, which is a sign of fertility and birth and the home, like the sanctuary space, that Jupiter-Venus conjunction, it birthed something. And it might have been an idea, it might have been something someone said to you, it might have just been a feeling, because we're in Cancer, which is all feeling dominant. And so there was probably something that was seeded for you that evening, even if you're not cognizant of it. And the moon sextiling Venus today is a step further in that story, because that Jupiter-Venus conjunction being ruled by the moon, because it's taking place in the sign of Cancer, this would have all been to the benefit of the moon. And let's go back. What does the moon want? The moon wants stability, security. It wants to feel good. So Jupiter and Venus seeded some sort of combination timeline storyline of where Jupiter is expanding our sovereign regality and Venus is expanding our pleasure body. And the outcome is going to be a sense where we aren't just experiencing the pleasure that Venus brings to our life, we're actually feeling it, because the moon. Now, the moon being in the sign of Taurus, Taurus is an earth element. So we need to think that these emotions that we're feeling today, wherever Taurus is at in your chart, wherever you're being nudged emotionally and you feel like this is something I like want to do, that is where you need to concretize the Venetian desires. That is how you get the Venetian desires of Cancer. So does that make sense to you? We're basically, because the moon is in the superior position, we're experiencing how to get closer to what Venus is showing us in this watery sign of Cancer by paying attention to the feelings of our moon in Taurus, wherever Taurus is in your chart, because we need to bring those feelings down, we need to ground them, and we need to concretize them in order to, again, get further in the Venetian element of our storyline. But again, they're all kind of an end-all to be-all, because all of these timelines, these celestial bodies, they work together. This is why we'll often find aspects and transits that are all in support or are all affecting or angling these aspects to make it a more specific niche outcome. And so again, in this case, this is very much in accordance with the moon. We are trying to not only experience Venetian pleasure, we're trying to richly feel it in our emotional body. And how do you richly feel something in your emotional body? You can expect it. It becomes expectant. It becomes predictable. So what did Jupiter and Venus seed in the Cancerian area of your life earlier this week? And now today, what are you feeling really pushed to concretize? Like, this is the feeling that I need to push forward on. Because if you follow those cues, and you follow these cues like a roadmap, like they're arrows on a wall leading you through a maze, that is how you are going to find something predictable, secure, expectant, so that you can be on the receiving end of those Venetian values. If If you enjoy these astrological and spiritual divinatory-based narratives, I encourage you to check out my class as I pitched earlier in the video. There's an evergreen link in the bio, so if it doesn't reflect this week's date, you're still signing up for the same class. I always send out a reminder the day of, and if I don't see you in class, I'll see you in the next video. Have a great weekend, everybody.